Ling Wenbin thought so too. Huang Yueli's performance earlier had been too obedient and too compliant. She had been standing there acting according to his request to let her blood flow. She had not been doing anything funny at all. Then, why wouldn't this door open? Ling Wenbin frowned, but after thinking for some time, he wasn't able to find any leads. Out of desperation, he could only retrieve the treasure map from his realm ring, and raising it against the light, he started studying it carefully. As he was reading it, he mumbled non-stop, "Weird, this lass had totally followed according to what the treasure map requested. As long as her blood filled up the entire door frame, the phoenix in the middle livens up, then this door will be opened. Why is it that it's not opening now?" Huang Yueli was still standing in front of the door as she started shouting. "Hey, old man Ling, have you read properly yet or not? Can you hurry up? Don't tell me your age is catching up and your eyes can't see clearly." Ling Wenbin originally was feeling depressed because the door wouldn't open, and after being relentlessly ridiculed by her, above the depression was a stuffed feeling as the expression on his face turned even uglier. He turned around and lectured, "Wretched lass, shut up. Can't you tell that I'm already reading it? Urge, what's there to urge about?" Huang Yueli looked as though she was about to faint as she replied breathlessly, Of course I need to urge. You're just there reading the map, which is an easy job, but here I am losing blood. You know how much blood I've lost in order to fill so many carvings. I feel that I've lost too much blood and I feel very cold now. My head feels dizzy as though I'm about to lose consciousness any time now. You, as a practitioner, how could you be so weak?" Ling Wenbin replied in a bad mood. Huang Yueli's feet shuffled and swayed, and just as she was about to fall down, she hurriedly put out her other left hand, which had not been cut, as she held onto the wall, steadying herself. So dizzy, so dizzy. I really cannot take it anymore. If you don't tell me clearly how to open this door, after I die from excessive blood loss, then you can search for another person to open this door for you." Ling Wenbin's expression grew darker still, but he could tell that Huang Yueli seemed as though she really couldn't make it any longer. If this wretched lass were to really die, where on earth was he going to find another person to release blood and open this door? "Then, why don't you tell me what to do?" Ling Wenbin started to become anxious. Huang Yueli said, "Why not you show me that treasure map? I've already told you this earlier, you're not an armament master, so regarding mechanisms, you might not be able to tell." At this juncture, Ling Wenbin had no other way, on thinking that Huang Yueli was indeed a real talented armament master, so he nodded his head, "All right, I'll let you take a look." He walked towards Huang Yueli and raised the map to show her from afar. Huang Yueli frowned as she looked and mumbled to herself, "Well, there's really a problem. Old man Ling, what you say isn't right at all. This place should. Why can't I see it clearly? Can you bring it nearer a little bit more?" Ling Wenbin walked closer a little, but Huang Yueli still expressed that she couldn't see clearly. Ling Wenbin finally lost patience and directly placed the treasure map in front of her eyes. "All right, this should be near enough. Such a young age and your eyes can't even match up to an old man like me. This is so embarrassing, let me take a careful look." Huang Yueli lowered her head. Ling Wenbin looked at the four surroundings in apprehension. Suddenly he felt something being pulled from his hands. "You can also listen on." Huang Yue actually grabbed the treasure map from his hands, and upon using strength, she easily took it away from him. "What are you doing?" Before his question was finished, suddenly a scorching flame came burning from his back area, so hot that he started screeching out loud. Who tries to sneak an attack on me from behind?" Ling Wenbin turned his head around to capture the mastermind, but whoever knew that the minute he turned around, a sharp-pointed prick-like thing pierced deeply into his left eye. At that instant, an intense pain was felt from his eye, and at the same time, his vision turned blood red. My eye, my eye. Ling Wenbin covered his eye as he started hollering loudly. Huang Yueli gave a shocked but joyous expression as she praised, "Well done, Wang Kai." When Ling Wenbin suddenly appeared, after Little Phoenix whined a warning, it had following Huang Yueli's request and found a corner to hide. Ling Wenbin's attention was focused on Huang Yueli entirely. Although he felt that it was strange to hear a bird chirping, but he didn't give much thought to it as he thought it was due to his own hallucination. After Huang Yueli had Little Phoenix laid in ambush and made all preparations, she then lured Ling Wenbin to bring out the treasure map, and after that, catching him unaware, he snatched the treasure map and arranged for Little Phoenix to sneak an attack to distract his attention. At least to drag a couple of breaths. She had not expected Little Phoenix to complete this mission, even much better than she had thought. After this little fellow advanced, its attack power had indeed raised an entire level and its speed had already increased by several times. Even a 7th stage realm top expert like Ling Wenbin was caught unaware and actually fell for its trap. And in the process got seriously injured by it. Hearing Ling Wenbin's blood-curdling screams, and seeing the blood flowing out from the seams of his fingers which was covering his face, Huang Yueli felt a tinge of pain for him. Little Phoenix's peck was not ordinarily sharp, usually even the toughest armament refining ingredients were bitten into bit in an instant, what more a physical body. She gauged that Ling Wenbin's eye was destined to be disabled. Wang Kai heard Huang Yueli's praises and delightfully patted his wings as it was just about to cry out. But it heard Huang Yueli call out hastily, "Quick, quick, quick. Come over quickly. We don't have any time to waste, if he reacts in time then we're finished." Saying that, her wrist once again pressed against the left door frame's notch and simultaneously her left hand's fingers drew a circle in the air as she struck out some hand gestures. Viveur. Following that was the ringing of a gloomy sound as the bronze door gradually moved upwards, revealing the entrance of the high tower. Without hesitation, Huang Yueli leapt outwards and ran in. Little Phoenix tried hard as it flapped its wings as it followed her. After Huang Yueli entered the door, she immediately ran towards the mechanism by the side of the door as she struck out some hand gestures and the bronze door stopped moving upwards and instead it started to move downwards as it gradually shut itself. Just at this moment, Ling Wenbin suddenly stopped his miserable cries and tried his hardest to ensure that pain. He heard the sound of the bronze door being opened and this was something which he had been waiting for so many years. So at that moment, he forgot about the pain in his eye as one thought filled his mind, and that was he must absolutely enter the high tower. "By Ruoli, you wretched lass, how dare you plot against me? Open up the door, I want to go in." As he hollered, he didn't dare to waste any time as he swiftly charged towards the bottom part of the bronze door. The speed of the door closing wasn't considered very fast and although it had already closed by half, but if he were to lower his waist and his head he would still be able to barely pass through it. You can also listen on. When Huang Yueli saw that, she cried out, "Wang Kai, quick, chase him out of here." Simultaneously, she gathered all the profound chi she had in her body and drawing a line with her fingers in mid-air, a deviant flame appeared and utilizing her profound skill, she directed her attack towards Ling Wenbin. Little Phoenix also worked up its little tummy and blew out a puff of advanced orange-colored true phoenix fire. One human and one bird unreserved attack landed on Ling Wenbin at the same time and he was struck instantly as he moaned dully and almost threw up blood. But even so, his advancement speed had not halted. He had totally given up on defense, allowing Huang Yueli's attack to waywardly land on him because now, his only aim was to squeeze into the high tower before the bronze door closed up. Even if he was seriously injured by Huang Yueli, it didn't matter. Anyway, as long as he was able to enter the high tower, with that wretched lass's bit of cultivation, wouldn't she be at his mercy? By then, he would be able to take his revenge and vent his anger. However, Huang Yueli and Little Phoenix used all their ability because at this moment, it was a life and death situation. Huang Yueli didn't dare to hide or conceal herself as she retrieved an ancient zither from the sky phoenix ring. This zither was the icy jade zither which Li Moying gave her several months ago during the banquet in South Yu Kingdom. After Huang Yueli got this zither, and collecting several materials, she spent quite an amount of effort to refine it into a 5th-grade profound armament. But as she was the only 9th-stage realm expert who used an ancient zither in her previous life in the entire Soaring Heavens continent, as a weapon, so in order to prevent her identity from being exposed, she wasn't willing to use her zither before this. But now at this moment, if she didn't use her ultimate strike, in future she might not have any chance to use it. Huang Yueli turned the direction of the zither as she hugged it in her embrace while the other 5 fingers had already started brushing on the zither cords. Zheng, when the first zither sound rang, Ling Wenbin's action had obviously slowed down for a moment. When he saw Huang Yueli battled halfway and suddenly taking out an ancient zither, he thought something had gone wrong with her and was prepared to rush into the tower to mock at her. In the end, when the zither rang, his mind suddenly buzzed for a moment as though he suffered a heavy pound on his brain. "You, what are you playing at?" That zither. Ling Wenbin's consciousness suddenly became blurry, but as he was a 7th-stage realm practitioner, his mental power was rather strong, so he quickly recovered from it. Making prompt decision, he immediately gauged that something was wrong with that zither in Huang Yueli's hands as he pounced towards her, attempting to snatch it away. However, Huang Yueli calmly and unhurriedly turned around as her fingers continued to play the zither. Xing 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 xing. The zither notes were as though a violent storm rained in the silent high tower. Ling Wenbin's head felt dizzy once again, and every single time when he finally managed to recover his senses, he was thrown into dizziness once again. Actually, Ling Wenbin's mental power was much stronger than Huang Yueli's, and if he had been prepared earlier, under the circumstances of his full power defense, the harm which Huang Yueli's zither notes would be limited to a certain degree. But unfortunately, he had never in his wildest dreams thought that Huang Yueli actually used an ancient zither as a weapon. There was just a handful of practitioners who specialized in mental power attacks in Soaring Heavens continent, and without a trace of defense preparation, he had been completely caught unaware. At the same time, Little Phoenix continued blowing its flame at him and had already burnt most of the skin on his body, causing half of his body to be in a charred state, looking extremely horrendous. You can also listen on. Both zither sound and attack hastily fell upon him as Ling Wenbin was blocked outside the door. The bronze door gradually descended and finally it was left with merely half a meter of opening. Upon seeing that he was going to be shut outside, Ling Wenbin suddenly regained his senses and instantly, all his potential exploded from within. He fiercely hollered as both palms struck out forward. His entire body's profound chi were instilled in this move alone. A 7th-stage realm cultivator's strongest profound skill was no small matter, and after the bronze door suffered such a heavy attack, the speed of descent actually slowed down slightly. Ling Wenbin hurriedly put one leg inside, thinking to make use of this last chance to squeeze through from the door slit below. However, Huang Yueli had also utilized her killer move. She turned the direction of the icy jade zither as her fingers started plucking, and the zither sound suddenly changed a key as it became murderous sounding. At the same time, she drew out a silvery white, foot-long short sword from the zither body and lit up the sword blade with flame as she pierced it towards Ling Wenbin's right leg. Arg! A miserable shriek was heard and Huang Yueli's short sword had already struck Ling Wenbin's right leg. 7th-stage realm cultivator's body wasn't easily injured, but Huang Yueli had used the zither sound to attack and inflict injury onto him, and with Little Phoenix's total coordination, she managed to piece through Ling Wenbin's calf totally with just one strike. At this moment, the distance of the bronze door was just 2 inches away from the ground. Ling Wenbin knew that he had lost his last chance and there was no way he could enter this place again, as he couldn't help but started to tell, "Wretched lass, you sinister and treacherous wretched lass, how dare you set me up in this way? Hide in the tower for your entire life if you dare and don't come out, because if you do, I will absolutely let you die without any burial ground. Huang Yueli waved her hand at him as she replied lazily, if you had such an ability, then I can only say that's my fate. But unfortunately, the one who always gained the advantages seems to be me. Old fart, goodbye, slowly wait outside. Ling Wenbin was so angry that he threw up blood wildly on the spot. However, what was more tragic was right behind. As his right leg had already extended into the inner part of the high tower, Ling Wenbin had wanted to take advantage of the last chance before the bronze door closed up to withdraw his leg. But he had just used some strength before he discovered that his right leg had already lost all senses. He was unable to withdraw it at all. He immediately realized what had happened. It was definitely one of Huang Yueli's tricks. That wretched lass's sword earlier, although it could not cut off his leg, but it was aimed at numbing his meridians. Damn it! Door, don't close, don't close. Give me a few breaths' time. Ling Wenbin was in so much dismay that his entire body was drenched in sweat. He used his hand to pull his own leg, thinking to withdraw it. But alas, it was too late. No one could stop the trend of the bronze door closing, and finally, it heavily expelled his right leg. A terror-stricken, furious and desperate miserable shriek echoed into Huang Yueli's ears, but very quickly, it was blocked out by that great bronze door on the outside as she couldn't hear anything else. Huang Yueli finally heaved a long sigh. Finally, we have gotten rid of this old fart, it's just too dangerous this time round. Luckily, I was resourceful enough. Says who? You were able to escape was totally because of this young master's clever and quick-wittedness, martial and heroic, super powerful ability, handsome and suave. Little Phoenix was chattering non-stop as it tried its hardest to plaster gold onto its face. You can also listen on. After it finished, it didn't forget to raise its request. Since I've contributed such a huge merit, then for all future chicken drumsticks, can I have a double portion? Huang Yueli's brows twitched. You're already so fat and still want to eat a double portion. Your double chin already has 3 layers of fats, do you know that? What? Fat? Where am I fat? Little Phoenix retorted angrily as it pounced in front of Huang Yueli, wanting her to clarify clearly. Just at this moment, Huang Yueli's body suddenly leaned closely onto the wall as she gradually slid downwards, and subsequently, she fell sideways as though she had fainted. When Little Phoenix saw this, it was so shocked that it started screeching, "Hey, I say! Female devil, female devil! What's the matter with you? Quickly wake up! Why did you suddenly faint? Where do you feel uncomfortable? Have you suffered a serious injury? Finished, female devil is going to die. I'm going to be shut into the Sky Phoenix ring once again. What can I do? What should I do?" Little Phoenix was so anxious that it kept turning round in circles, and it started flying here and there in the inner portion of the high tower, making a big fuss at the same time. Huang Yueli leaned against the side of the wall and her consciously was a little blurry, but Little Phoenix's sharp screeching calls seemed to be like a demonic sound as it dove straight into the brain, causing her to have a bout of headaches. Actually, it was normal for her to faint. Earlier when she was outside the bronze door, she was coerced by Ling Wenbin to use her blood to open the door, and she had released quite an amount of blood. In actual fact, she didn't need to come out with so much blood, but in order to drag some time, to coax Ling Wenbin into bringing out the treasure map, she intentionally blocked a chink, stopping the blood from flowing into it. In this way, the door remained closed and her blood kept flowing. It was much later when she really felt her entire body turn cold from too much blood loss and her head became groggy, so she wasn't cheating Ling Wenbin at all. Under that kind of circumstances, she still depleted all her profound energy to stop Ling Wenbin from entering the high tower. Especially at the last part where she used the icy jade zither, displaying her killer move, a profound skill which she grasped in her past life when she was in 9th stage realm. The consumption on mental power was extremely huge, and to a 3rd stage realm peak cultivator like her now, was a huge expense which she could not bear. It was the combination of several elements that she could last till now before fainting, and this was already a miracle for her now, in order to rest properly, borrowing the high tower's inner portion's high-intensity heaven and earth profound chi to restore her body's injuries, which was the best option. Silence was extremely important. But unfortunately, the little phoenix which she reared always acted out of the book, and it actually flew everywhere, crying to an earth-shaking point, making so much noise that she couldn't rest at all. For that one instance, Wang Yueli really wanted to stuff that little thing back into the sky phoenix ring, but she didn't have that much mental power to control little phoenix. She tolerated and bore with it, and after a long time later, little phoenix probably got tired from crying out and started to become silent. Huang Yueli finally drifted off into a deep sleep. Unknowingly, 3 days went by. Celestial Light sect was filled with jubilation. Ever since Murong Fei returned to the sect and indicated that she had spent an amount of time together with Li Moying, many people felt that she was going to get married to Li Moying. Even Murong De believed that deeply and kept encouraging her to take good care of Li Moying, grabbing this peerless expert's heart tightly, to make him stay in Celestial Light sect. Murong Fei felt guilty, but at the same time she set her determination to double her efforts to display her virtuous and elegant look in front of Li Moying. You can also listen on. She wanted to show a stark contrast against Huang Yueli, that immature and inexperienced, willful and proud lass, letting Li Moying knew that only a mature and elegant refined lady like her was worthy of him. Hence, whenever she had time, she would bring the medicinal soup and herbs that she made to the rear mountains courtyard where Li Moying was staying. However, no matter how diligent Murong Fei was, Li Moying refused to meet her even once. The person who appeared in front of her was always the expressionless Moe, or Mo heir, who spoke in an eccentric tone, and either one of them could make her die of anger. Li Moying was in fact totally unaware of how bustling it was outside. Ever since he returned to Celestial Light sect, he shut himself in his courtyard and went into closed-door cultivation. Breaking up with Lear had made his world turn gray, and no matter what he did, he wasn't able to lift his spirits up. The images of Huang Yueli's usual expression while she was with him kept popping out in his mind, and every single time he thought of the cunning look with her pointed teeth when she laughed, his heart felt a pang of throbbing pain. Under this circumstance, only cultivation could make him forget this kind of pain momentarily. So every day he refused to meet anyone and chose to shut himself in his courtyard to cultivate. Even his shadow guards had not seen him for 3 days already. Today, a figure shot from the front mountain towards the rear mountain, but even after he reached Li Moying's courtyard, his footsteps didn't stop and continued to rush inside while shouting, "Young sect master, something's up, something bad has happened." Moe frowned as he went up to welcome that person. Who is it who dares to barge into young sect master's closed-door cultivation location? Saying that, he took a look and immediately recognized that person, Principal Jiang. "Why have you come here?" Jiang Tuxin panted heavily as he clutched his chest, and his head full of white hair was all drenched with sweat, and he was gasping for his breath as he said, "Protector." "Mo, where is young sect master? I have an important news that I need to tell him right now." Moe replied, "Principal Jiang, you came at the wrong time. Ever since master returned to the sect, he announced that he was going into closed-door cultivation and he would take at least 3 to 5 months before he's out. Oh no, what should I do? I'm really worried, something happened to Bai Ruoli." Jiang Tuxin's brows creased as he looked completely at a loss. When Moe heard that name, he immediately got excited as he rushed forward their faces. "Principal Jiang, you say? You're worried something has happened to third Miss Bai? What's the matter with her?" Jiang Tuxin heaved a sigh and said, "You don't know, ever since the day young sect master and eldest young miss left Celestial Light Academy, by Ruoli also disappeared. Young sect master had repeatedly urged me to take good care of Miss Bai before he left, so I would send someone to take a look at her 3 days ago, only to discover that she had already been missing for several days. Furthermore, the day she left the academy was the next day after you all left. What? Moe and Moe exchanged glances as they saw the pleasantly surprised expression in each other's eyes. Moe gave a cough and said, "Principal Jiang, you need not be overly worried, I'm guessing. Third Miss should be chasing after my master." Although both of them quarreled, but their feelings remain the same, so this is very normal. Third Miss's cultivation isn't very high and she doesn't have access to a flying ship, so for her to come over to Celestial Light Sect, she's at least need 5 to 6 days time, so probably she's still on the way here. Moe also chipped in, "Isn't that due? Master is almost going crazy from the things he does for Third Miss. He will definitely be very happy when he hears about this news. I will go and report this to Master right now. You can also listen on." The two of them spun around to pass the information. Jiang Tuxin hurriedly called out to stop them. "Please wait a moment, both of you." Moe and Moe turned back as they looked at him puzzledly. Jiang Yusin hurriedly said, "Things are not what you think it is. Bai Ruoli had likely gotten into trouble." "What?" Both of them cried out in shock as their expressions were filled with astonishment. Moe was in a rush to ask what had happened clearly, but before he could even speak, the courtyard door was suddenly opened from the inside. "You say, what happened to Lear?" A deep, hoarse voice was heard from behind the trio. The three of them were shocked as they were startled at Li Moying's sudden appearance. "Master, why are you out?" "My respects to Master." Moe and Moe made their salutations one after another, whereas Jiang Tuxin went into a daze as he looked in astonishment at the man in front of him. If it hadn't been for the fact that he recognized his voice, and with Moe and Moe by the side as a witness, he almost couldn't recognize that the slovenly dressed and absent-minded man, who was usually suave and peerlessly handsome, was the young sect master Li Moying. Li Moying's face was exceptionally pale and his hair was scattered messily by the side of his face. There were black patches under his eyes, but even though he seemed to be in a despondent state, he still bore the usual indescribable overbearing imposing manner which was enough to attract any woman's gaze. Young sect master, Li Moying walked over and stood in front of Jiang Tuxin as a cold glint flashed past his eyes. "What did you say earlier?" "Lear, she. Something happened to her." "What exactly happened to her?" "Before I left, haven't I asked you to take good care of her? How long has it been only and something had happened to her? Tell me clearly right now." Moe looked at Li Moying's agitated look, and amidst worries, there were also some signs of emotion. Master still denied that the both of them had no more relationship and didn't even look back as he ran back to Celestial Light Sect, in the end. Just based on his reaction, if he could really let go of Third Miss, something really was wrong. Jiang Tuxin continued ashamedly, "I have let you down. That day after you left, I'd sent a number of people to take care of Miss Bai, but she said she wanted to go into closed-door cultivation to recuperate and shut everyone outside, whereas she slipped away. I'd only discovered this 2 days ago and thought she came to look for you in Celestial Light Sect, so I sent a few bodyguards, thinking to chase up to her and send her here. But the bodyguards followed the path here and searched for a long time, but they weren't able to find anyone at all. Instead, they heard a rumor." "What rumor?" Li Moying's voice was extremely peaceful, but those who knew him well knew clearly that he was the kind whom would become more and more calm as he got angrier, and now he was already on the verge of acting up. Jiang Tuxin's sweat drenched his entire back, but he didn't dare to raise his head. "Yes. A group of Jade Wind Merchant Guild merchants were on the way to West Sky region to do some business, and someone said that a few days ago, they met a young lady who was around 14 or 15. From their description, she sounds very similar to Miss Bai, and that young lady wanted to follow them to Celestial Light Sect, but midway on the road here, a mysterious man dressed in a hood suddenly appeared, pointing her out. That young lady didn't want to implicate them, so she immediately appeared and lured the mysterious man away. Mysterious man. Li Moying's brows knitted tightly together. Jiang Tushi nodded. I heard that this mysterious man's cultivation is very high and that young lady totally wasn't his match, so she kept escaping. Later on, the both of them disappeared and even the merchant guild didn't know where they went to. You can also listen on. In actual fact, the merchant guild leader's original words were, "Not sure if that young lady was dead or alive," but Jiang Tuxin was afraid that it might agitate Li Moying once again, so he could only change it to whereabouts unknown. But even so, Li Moying had already gone mad. With a casual flick of his sleeve, a powerful profound qi struck out in midair. All of a sudden, lightning filled the skies. That plot of land which cultivated several thousand-year-old silver-leaf spiritual trees were all snapped off across the middle, in complete disorder. Jiang Tuxin, Moe, and Moer hurriedly stepped aside, and although Li Moying had evaded their direction, but it still made their chests tremble greatly as they almost spat out blood on the spot. Jiang Tuxin clutched his chest. On one hand he was startled by Li Moying's exceptional potential, while on the other hand, he was silently crying out in shock by his intense reaction. Even after Li Moying struck, the melancholic feeling on his chest did not decrease in any way. The moment he thought his Lear had suffered a top expert's interception, and her life and death was totally unknown, his heart was thrown into incomparable pain. At the same time, he was extremely remorseful. If only he hadn't left Lear's side, she wouldn't have set off alone to look for him in Celestial Light Sect, and such a thing wouldn't have happened. At this point in time, he even started to hate himself. Even if Lear didn't like him forever, why couldn't he continue to protect her silently? Why did he let Lear get hurt just because of his pride? Li Moying gritted his teeth as his two hands clenched into fists, his 10 fingers totally sinking into his palms as his blood started to drip. He managed to control his anger and didn't make another move, but he took quick steps as he flew towards the front mountain. While he was walking, he sent out his commands to the few of them. Moe, immediately arrange for people to search along the path between Celestial Light Academy and Celestial Light Sect, not missing out even an inch. Even if they have to dig underground 3 feet, they must find Lear and the person who hurt her. Yes. Moer, lead a team and ask around the neighboring cities, towns and villages. If Lear managed to escape, in order to prevent her identity from being exposed, she would definitely find a place and hide herself. Yes. Jiang Tuxin, I'm here. Jiang Tuxin subconsciously shuddered because he had obviously heard Li Moying silent grinding his teeth when he called out his name. Li Moying said, quickly return back to Celestial Light Academy and run through a checklist on all the practitioners in the academy who are in 7th stage realm and above, to find out who is the troublemaker. Jiang Tuxin was stunned. Oh. Li Moying's voice grew doleful. Earlier in Celestial Light Academy, Lear was attacked by a masked 7th stage realm practitioner. Luckily I managed to save her in time, but I was unable to capture that person. I reckon that the person who attacked Lear this time is him. This person is definitely related to Celestial Light Academy, so you must dig this person out. Yes, I understand. Jiang Tuxin started to sweat profusely. If Huang Yueli was really dead and the murderer was in Celestial Light Academy, then his position as principal would most likely be difficult to retain. Inside the high tower, Huang Yueli was having a dizzy spell as she didn't know how long she had been in deep sleep for. When she awoke, she felt her entire body feeling warm, as though she was soaked in hot spring water. Furthermore, the profound qi in her body was abundant as the damages to her meridians and internal organs were completely healed. She extended her hands and feet, feeling that she was never in a better condition, and even, there seemed to be signs of a breakthrough in her cultivation. What situation is this? She murmured to herself as she frowned. You can also listen on. Aw dash. Female devil, you're finally awake dash. You simply scared me to death. Woo 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 woo. Huang Yueli was still in a daze when suddenly little Shotokan took big steps with his short legs as he pounced towards her. That chubby and flabby body jumped right into her embrace as he hugged her waist, refusing to let go. Huang Yueli was initially stunned, but later on she touched his head as she laughingly said, all right, it's all right now. Aren't I just fine now? Little Phoenix was so angry that it stomped its feet. You still dare to laugh? Do you know how many days you have been in a coma for? Furthermore, your look previously was just too scary. You were covered in blood totally, and your profound energy as well as your mental power were almost depleted. Huang Yueli curiously asked, how many days have I slept for? Little Phoenix's face instantly showed an embarrassed look. Aw. About this. I also don't know. This tower doesn't seem to emit the sunlight from the outside, and there's only a fire on the wall which seemed like it doesn't extinguish. How would I know how many days has it been? Then why did he still say it in that way earlier? Huang Yueli was rather speechless. Just at this moment, suddenly a voice entered her ears. It has been 5 days since you entered the inheritance grounds. Huang Yueli was firstly stunned before screaming out in shock, who's that talking? Not too far away, a good-looking, long-haired man looked towards them from afar. Aw. Ghost. Ghost. There was obviously no one here earlier. Little Phoenix trembled from head to toe after he saw him and turned around as it jumped into Huang Yueli's arms. The man slowly shook his teeth as he said helplessly, you yourself is a spiritual body and you still dare to say that other people are ghosts. Huang Yueli had already calmed down by now. She took a look at the man's unusual good-looking face and the way he walked and the expression he put on as he talking as she sort of made some guesses in her heart. You are this high tower's guardian. So you're also a spiritual body. That's why you can suddenly appear. Huang Yueli opened her mouth to speak. That high tower's surface area, from the outside, seemed not very big, and the inside was even smaller. From one end to the other end, it was merely 30 over steps distance, and just one glance and one will be able to see the ending point. When she entered the high tower, she took a clear look that there was no one in this tower, so this man before their eyes was definitely not someone ordinary. When the man heard her words, he nodded, looks like a junior, like you have some knowledge. Huang Yueli's mouth twitched as she felt slightly unable to accept it. After all, she had lived for several decades in her past life and to be called as a junior. But changing her thoughts, the man in front of her was guarding this high tower, and probably he had been here for tens of thousands of years. So as compared to him, she indeed was a junior. Furthermore, she was the most junior kind of junior level. But by now, Huang Yueli could tell that this man had no evil intentions towards her. Otherwise, just based on the fact that she was in lethargic sleep for so many days, if he wanted to kill her, it was an easy feat. Even if he was too lazy to take action, all he needed to do was to throw her out of the tower, which would also lead to her death. Thinking of this, Huang Yueli stood up as she clasped her fist into her other hand and paid her respects. This junior is Huang Yueli. May I know your name, senior? And where is this place? From the outside, it seems that this place is a part of an early historical remains. The man's brows rose in surprise as the expression on his face was an indescribable strange look. You say, you don't know where this place is? How is that possible? Then how did you come in? You can also listen on. The more Huang Yueli couldn't understand, the tighter her slender brows grew. It's like this, my father left me a piece of treasure map and he wanted me to follow the hints on the map to look for this early historical remains. The man replied, that's right, those who knows this place are all passed down by their parents. But since your father wants you to come here, didn't he tell you what use this tower is for? Ah. Regarding this, my father didn't say. In actual fact, Huang Yueli had no time to look at the treasure map which Bai Lu Feng left behind, so she didn't know if he left any other clues, but now that she has said like this, surely she can't retrieve the treasure map now and took a look, right? So she could only pretend till the end. The man shook his head as he said in total displeasure, your father is simply too irresponsible. Such an important matter and yet he didn't tell you clearly, what kind of that is he? Huang Yueli hurriedly explained for Bai Lu Feng, Senior, don't be mistaken. My father had been missing in an expedition since I was still at a very young age, so he didn't purposely not tell me about this. The man then responded, no wonder, since that's the case, towards the clan's matters, you know nothing at all. Huang Yueli was dumbstruck, clan. The man didn't reply her immediately but stared at her dazed look for a while before sighing. This is a long story. Let me self-introduce. My name is Huang Zixiao, the guardian for this inheritance grounds. As what you have seen, I am in a spiritual body state and have been living in this inheritance grounds for 80,000 over years, 80,000 years. Huang Yueli cried out in shock. She had thought that this high tower had been here since 10,000 years ago, but whoever knew that it had already been in existence since 80,000 years ago? What concept was that? Simply unbelievable. 10,000 years ago, Soaring Heaven's continent underwent a huge change and the past history had all disappeared, only leaving some early historical remains behind. How was it like 80,000 years ago? That was something no one had any way to find out. She discovered another strange point. Wait a moment, your surname is also Huang. And you said, this is an inheritance ground. What inheritance ground? Huang Zixiao laughed as he said, you and I are all members of the sacred Phoenix clan, so isn't the surname Huang a matter of fact? As for this place, it is the sacred Phoenix clan's inheritance grounds. Sacred Phoenix clan. Huang Yueli repeated after him, not knowing why that it was supposed to be a strange name, but it seemed to tug some strings in her heart. Huang Zixiao nodded and continued, the Sacred Phoenix clan had originally been one of the strongest families in Soaring Heaven's continent. Several thousands of years ago, when Soaring Heaven's continent's profound qi was still abundant, among the entire God Realm subsidiary 3000 continent, it was considered top-rated. We, the Sacred Phoenix clan, had always been residing in Soaring Heaven's continent, and we have given birth to numerous famed peerless geniuses in 3000 continent. Even in God Realm, we have established ourselves to be one of the 4 major families. As he reminisced about the past when the clan was at its peak, the cherished look which flashed past his eyes, with a deep gaze, as though he had returned to the past. Little Phoenix was hiding in Huang Yueli's arms originally, but when he heard this, he couldn't help but jump out. Ah! Sacred Phoenix clan. I remember now, I heard of this family before. They are famous in God Realm. Among God Realm's top 10 gods, 3 were from Sacred Phoenix clan. But what you're saying is a problem, isn't it? Such a powerful clan, how could they possibly have started from the Soaring Heavens continent? You can also listen on. Huang Zixiao didn't reply immediately, instead his vision fell onto little Wang Kai, as a smile was revealed at the corners of his lips. TSK, this is actually the body of an infant phoenix. And just completed its first advancement. I think he seems to be at least a few thousand years old, and it's only now that he completed his first advancement. Isn't he a little slow in development? Little Wang Kai was instantly riled up and retorted, who are you saying is slow in development? Little master, I am so handsome and suave, so aggressive and formidable. He tried his best to hoot, but Huang Zixiao treated him like air as he continued talking, without minding anyone else. But, you're so young and already succeeded in contracting a phoenix, so you can be considered to be a top talent among our clan in God Realm, and that is extremely hard to come by. Even though this phoenix's development has flaws, but you are still considered as a top-rated genius in the clan. When Huang Yueli heard this, she was still unable to regain her senses. From Huang Zixiao's tone, contracting a phoenix didn't seem to be a universally shocking matter. He said it was hard to come by, so that meant that it wasn't one and only, but something which happened once in a while. But the phoenix was an authentic spiritual beast. To frequently contract a spiritual beast. Heavens, what kind of terrifying clan was that? Even though they were a large clan in the God Realm, surely such foul play couldn't happen, right? Moreover, from what Huang Zixiao meant, she was a member of that powerful clan. Was there a mistake somewhere? Wait a minute. Senior. Huang. You're saying, I'm from the Sacred Phoenix clan. Huang Zixiao paused for a moment as though he was looking at an idiot, of course. This inheritance tower can only be activated by practitioners who possesses the bloodline of the Sacred Phoenix clan. Furthermore, the density of the bloodline must reach a certain degree, otherwise even if you let all the blood in your body run dry, you'd not be able to open the door at all. Now that you've already entered this place, you actually don't know which clan you belong to. Boo. But, this is not possible, isn't it? I mean, my background is very ordinary and there aren't many high-level practitioners in my family, and we are just an ordinary practitioner's family. Your background is ordinary. Huang Zixiao laughed grimly. You have a rare flame spirit physique which is not commonly seen even in the God Realm. If your background is indeed from an ordinary practitioner family, how would you have such good innate talent? Please use your brain slightly to think. Don't tell me your innate talent and physique was changed because you were struck by lightning. Huang Yueli felt that under Huang Zixiao's continuous setbacks, she was almost going to be despised to an idiot. This, to her, was a rare experience, and usually she was the one who despised others for being dumb, but today she had actually been despised by others. But the news which Huang Zixiao brought her was indeed too shocking, so there was no way she could remain calm. Suddenly, a thought flashed past her mind as she suddenly recalled her mother, who she had not met before, that she was a 9th-grade talented super genius, but her background was a total mystery. Could it be that? How is it? Finally understood what happened? Still not very sure. She was filled with puzzlement, but Huang Zixiao bore a matter-of-fact expression and continued talking. Don't feel that it's not possible, since things have already come to pass, and the inheritance grounds absolutely would not allow those non-blood-related people to enter, so no matter what tricks they try to use to enter forcefully, they would all be expelled. When Huang Yueli heard these, her tears almost fell. After so long, she tried ways and means to shut Ling Wenbin outside the inheritance tower. In the end, it was a total waste of her energy. You can also listen on. That year, when the Sacred Phoenix clan was still in Soaring Heaven's continent isn't what you see now. The profound chi was abundant and was a place in which all clans were fighting to stay in. If it wasn't for the fact that the Sacred Phoenix clan was powerful enough, we couldn't possibly occupy Soaring Heaven's continent for several thousand years that long. Only, later, an accident happened. Accident? Huang Yueli blinked as she asked, what accident? Huang Zixiao bypassed her question once again. Anyway, the heaven and earth profound chi became so thin, only 1/10 of the past, so this resulted in the clan's decline in the number of geniuses. Even those who were able to ascend to the God realm also kept declining, so the clan had no choice but to make the decision to relocate. Saying until this point, he paused once again. But this time Huang Yueli kept silent, not continuing from there. She sort of understood that Huang Zixiao was simply self-conceited to the extreme, so naturally there probably was some clan's secret which he couldn't let her know about. In conclusion, no matter what she asked, there wasn't any use, as he would not pay any attention to it, treating as though he didn't hear anything and would not answer her at all. As expected, even though she didn't say a word, Huang Zixiao continued to weave his story. Roughly 80,000 years ago, when the clan was at its peak, in order to filter out the clan's geniuses, the clan leader at that time had borrowed the entire clan's strength to build this inheritance tower. In this tower, there is a large amount of the clan's resources and cultivation methods inheritance. At the same time, it is an extremely harsh system, used to filter out the best top geniuses. During that time, the inheritance tower would be activated once a year, and the clan's talented practitioners who were between 15 to 20 years old would enter the tower and obtain the inheritance according to their performance. All the peerless geniuses who were formidable and renowned in the god realm had all experienced the inheritance's assessment. However, after the entire clan relocated from Soaring Heaven's continent, this inheritance tower was left idle here. Your luck is extremely good, under such thin profound chi in Soaring Heaven's continent, to be able to enter the inheritance tower and have the standard ability to take part in the assessment. Huang Yuelate finally couldn't help but butted in. Taking part in the inheritance assessment requires one to reach a certain standard ability. How is that possible? Huang Zixiao stared at her. You know that to activate the inheritance tower requires how much profound chi? The inheritance tower now is sometimes visible because of the lack of profound chi. Furthermore, when the clan was at its peak, there were millions of clansmen living in Soaring Heaven's continent, and it was not possible for everyone to take part in the assessment. So every time the inheritance tower was activated, the talented ones among the clan had to obtain a quota according to the battle ranking, and only those ranked top 500 geniuses could enter the inheritance tower. First 500, Huang Yueli's mouth twitched. She thought only the first 5 could enter the tower. First 500 seemed like there wasn't any difficulty at all. Huang Zixiao saw through what she was thinking as he snorted, "What?" Looking down on the first 500 geniuses. Let me tell you, at that time, those geniuses who had the qualifications to enter the inheritance tower, without any exception, were able to break through to the 10th stage realm before they turned 30 and ascend to the god realm. What? How is that possible? Huang Yueli turned pale with fright. Hearing this, she could no longer remain calm. The clan's top 500 were able to enter the inheritance tower, and moreover the inheritance tower was activated yearly. This meant that in the Sacred Phoenix, there were 500 genius practitioners who advanced to the 10th stage realm before they turned 30 yearly. You can also listen on. 10th stage realm. That was something which Mu Qingying, in his past life, had spent numerous effort on, but yet still unable to attain at that realm. Remembering the incident before something happened to her, Mu Qingying once said that he had finally felt the threshold of breaking through to the 10th stage realm, but that, in order to save her, he forcefully stopped his closed-door cultivation and his stage realm dropped. And now she had no idea how he became Li Moying, 10th stage realm, probably wasn't able to attain that. So it could be seen how difficult it was to attain to the 10th stage realm. Even so, several thousand years ago, when Soaring Heaven's continent's heaven and earth's profound chi's density was 10 times more than the current, based on Mu Qingying's innate talent then, he would probably had ascended long ago. But even so, on hearing that so many young practitioners breaking through to the 10th stage realm every year was still a shocking achievement. No wonder little Wang Kai said the Sacred Phoenix race was one of the 4 large clans in the god realm. This potential was indeed outstanding. Huang Zixiao saw her gasp in admiration expression as he felt more comfortable in his herd. This inexperienced young lass, when she first entered here, she was totally clueless about the clan's glamorous history, which simply made him, someone who was bursting with glory with the clan's honor, felt like his chest was so stuffed that he could die. Now, her performance finally seemed normal. Now do you understand? Know how big of an advantage you've picked up? Huang Zixiao hummed as he said chillingly. Huang Yueli nodded her head, indeed rather surprised. But surely this cannot be called as picking up an advantage, right? I feel that with my innate talent, even if it was several thousand years ago, I would still be able to enter the inheritance tower. Huang Zixiao had thought that after Huang Yueli heard what he said, she would absolutely put on a look as though a huge pie had dropped from the sky, knowing how lucky she was. In the end, this last actually seemed as though it was a matter-of-fact thing to happen. Did she think that having a flame spirit physique was something incredible? Certainly, the flame spirit physique wasn't commonly seen among the sacred phoenix race, but in the way of cultivation, it wasn't purely just based on the innate physique only. Huang Zixiao spoke in displeasure. Looks like you're very confident. Feel that your innate talent is very good. Then why not hurry over and do the assessment? Assessment? Huang Yueli blinked. Huang Zixiao's wide robe sleeves waved towards the sky as the center of the high tower, which was originally empty, suddenly appeared a long crystal-like pillar, and under the strong reflection of the light, it looked sparkling and translucent with brilliant lights and vibrant colors, looking very magical. Although Huang Yueli had guessed something in her heart, but she still opened her mouth to ask, "What is this?" Huang Zixiao said, "This is the mechanism which we use commonly in the God realm to assess one's innate talent. Now walk to the center position of the pillar and unleash all the profound energy in your body into it. The light pillar's brightness will undergo changes according to your innate talent, and different brightness represented different innate talent grades." Huang Yueli was stunned for a moment. Innate talent grade. My flame spirit physique should be 9th grade innate talent and above. Huang Zixiao's lips revealed a scornful smile. 1st to 9th grade innate talent is something which those ordinary practitioners who aren't from a clan uses to assess the grade. In a large clan like the Sacred Phoenix race, innate talents of 9th grade and below are all considered as ordinary grade innate talent. Ordinary grade innate talent. What is that? Huang Yueli couldn't understand it at all. Although Huang Zixiao seemed slightly impatient, but he still started to explain. In God realm, the real geniuses' innate talent grading are categorized into 4 different grades: heaven grade, earth grace, human grade, and ordinary grade. Soaring heaven's continent's so-called 1st to 9th grade talent all fall into the category of ordinary grade. You can also listen on. Ordinary grade is the most basic innate talent grade. That only represented that this person was barely enough to cultivate to become a practitioner. Whereas human grade innate talent meant that this person had the ability to pass through the cultivation to ascend to God realm. Of course, Soaring Heaven's Continent's current method of assessing innate talents is wrong, so for those extremely strong practitioners with better innate talent may only be tested as 9th grade, but there was still a possibility of a human grade genius. So that's why, Huang Yueli sighed in a soft voice. She was saying that Mu Qingying's innate talent had obviously surpassed her 9th grade talent by so much then, but their assessment results was still the same. Looks like Mu Qingying should at least be a human-grade genius, only Soaring Heaven's Continent wasn't capable of assessing it correctly. She asked again, then, heaven-grade and earth-grade innate talent, what are those? Huang Zixiao sneered coldly, you certainly have some self-confidence to ask about heaven and earth-grade innate talent, but what's the point? Anyway, you cannot possibly have that kind of innate talent. Huang Yueli was first stunned, as she asked puzzledly, why is it not possible? The speed of my cultivation had always been very fast. Moreover, you had said earlier that my type of flame spirit physique is not commonly seen in the God realm, so surely there must be something which is exceptional about it, right? Huang Zixiao replied, you're right, flame spirit physique is indeed rarely seen, but that's only part of your innate talent, which means to say your affinity towards fire attribute is extremely high. Although this is an obvious advantage, but the real innate talent isn't just about affinity but your power of comprehension, endurance, physique. A combination of various elements to yield the result. Having the same flame spirit physique, some may possibly be a heaven-grade genius but many are merely a human-grade genius. Seeing Huang Yueli still not convinced, he continued, "You think that heaven-grade geniuses are that easy? In God realm, among 10,000 human-grade geniuses there would only be one earth-grade genius. Among 10,000 earth-grade geniuses, there is only one heaven-grade talent. If it was a practitioner who is a direct descendant of the sacred phoenix race, then there is a 10% chance that the person is an earth-grade genius. Although the sacred phoenix race bloodline runs within your body, but the members who stayed behind in soaring heaven's continent were all sub-branches among the branches and the density of their bloodlines are not high. So after tens of thousands of years, the bloodline now has probably thinned out and the innate talent which was inherited naturally wouldn't be any higher." "I see." Huang Yueli nodded. Hearing these, to say she was not disappointed was not possible but changing her thoughts, the profound cheese density in soaring heaven's continent was just like that so the chances of ascending in the future is not high so whichever grade genius she belonged to in the God realm didn't seem that important at all. As long as she could successfully obtain the inheritance in the inheritance tower, and raise her own ability, as long as she doesn't drag Li Moying's hind feet, to her, that was already a huge reward. With this thought in mind, she turned towards Huang Zixiao and said, "When can I start the assessment?" Huang Zixiao said, "Go to the center of the light pillar first to test your innate talent grade. In the inheritance tower, towards different clansmen with different innate talent grades, the difficulty of the tests are different. The higher the grade of the test, the better the rewards are. So you must try your best to unleash all of your ability to obtain the inheritance tower's acknowledgement." Although he said so, but in Huang Zixiao's heart he had already ascertained that Huang Yueli was definitely a human-grade genius, and furthermore, someone who was in the lower level among the human grade. No matter how much profound energy she unleashed, the result would still be the same. You can also listen on. His detailed explanation earlier was merely a formality. Huang Yueli wasn't draggy as well as she simply nodded and walked towards the center of the light pillar. Following her entry, the light pillar instantly extinguished as it restored its icy cold, transparent crystal luster. Huang Zixiao said, "Let's start." The minute his voice stopped, Huang Yueli took a deep breath and immediately unleashed all the profound energy within her. Among the surge of fire attributed energy, other mixed attributed profound energy also charged towards the entire light pillar. Light pillar's bottommost part started to light up first. The color which was instantly reflected was a blazing fire red color, as its rays were dazzling, attracting one's eyes. Huang Zixiao was originally looking on the sideline with an expressionless face, thinking that this was just a formality but as the bright glare lit up the light pillar, it illuminated the entire high tower and an astonished look was shown on his face as his eyes turned wide as he couldn't help but take a step out. How could this be possible? How could the brightness possibly be so strong? Huang Yueli's continued to imbue her profound energy into this light pillar and not only was it dazzling, it even climbed all the way up. In the inheritance tower, the brightness of the energization of the light pillar represented the intensity of the practitioner's affinity and strength. Whereas the height of the light pillar represented the practitioner's innate talent grade. Huang Yueli had a flame spirit physique and originally her fire-attributed affinity and strength were already very strong so towards this point, Huang Zixiao had long expected this outcome. But no matter how much mental preparation he had, when this happened right in front of his eyes, it still gave him a great shock. Because, this was just too bright. It was simply not possible for common flame spirit physiques to achieve such brightness. Even when the entire clan was at its peak, such a practitioner who could light up the pillar to such brightness were mostly the top talents within the family clan. Not only that, Huang Yueli's light pillar was not totally red in color. Amidst the red-colored rays were mixed with other colors. Even if the red was shining brightly, but there was no way to suppress all the other colors' rays. This meant that she didn't just had one single fire attribute, but also had the innate talent for the other attributes. Furthermore, under the circumstances where her fire-attributed affinity and strength were so strong, there was simply no way to conceal the other attributes' innate talent which she had, so that meant she was 100% multi-attribute genius. The other attributes' innate talents as compared to fire attribute were not inferior in any respect. Heavens, how could this be? Her fire attribute affinity and strength is actually so high. Even if her power of comprehension, determination and others are not so good, but with this kind of affinity, there are hopes for her to become an Earth-grade genius. But immediately following that, Huang Zixiao shook his head as he mumbled to himself, but this is only a possibility. Only 1 or 2 Earth-grade geniuses among the sacred Phoenix race would appear every several decades. And basically those were all direct descendants or side branches clansmen, who could become Earth-grade geniuses, and sometimes there might not even be one after several thousand years. This young lass, naturally couldn't be one. Just as he was in deep thoughts, the light pillar continued to climb up. Very quickly, it had already shot past the bottommost portion and reached the height of human-grade genius, but the light pillar didn't stop there and continued climbing upwards. But after rushing past half of the height, the speed of the light pillar started to slow down gradually, especially the nearer it reached Earth-grade genius's height, the speed of ascension became slower and slower. Huang Zixiao sighed with emotion. My guess is indeed correct, this young lass is unable to reach the Earth grade. You can also listen on. But she's already very incredible. This innate talent, amongst the human-grade geniuses, is already at the forefront. Adding on to her multi-attribute innate talents, if she could obtain the clan's inheritance, even if she met the lowest tier of Earth-grade genius, she might be able to fight it out. The light pillar's ascension speed continued at snail pace and finally, as though it was about to stop. Huang Zixiao sighed, about to end. Just at this moment, a much more glaring ray than before shone brilliantly, and following that, it ferociously jumped by up a notch as it directly shot past the Earth-grade talents checkpoint. What? What's this situation? At this moment, the calm and disdainful look could no longer be found on Huang Zixiao's face, as he had completely gone into a shocked daze by what he saw. Because, even in his wildest dreams, he had not expected Huang Yueli to be able to reach the standard of an Earth-grade genius. Even several thousand years ago, there were very few Earth-grade geniuses assessed in the Inheritance Tower. What's more about the current place where resources were so scarce? How did she do it? Could it be that because she possessed a flame spirit physique, so those side branches remnants of the sacred phoenix race who were left behind in soaring heaven's continent had all thrown whatever resources they had onto her, which was why they were able to nurture such a unique Earth-grade genius? But this saying wasn't totally correct. Sacred phoenix race's valuable inheritance had all been brought to the god realm, and those which could not be taken away were all in the inheritance tower. Even if she was one of the clan's side branch valued peerless genius, how much resources would she possibly get? Probably what she could not even be compared to what God Realm's lowest leveled rubbish could get. Under such circumstances, she actually became an Earth-grade genius. However, what Huang Zixiao didn't expected was, Huang Yueli not only did not get any resources from the God Realm's direct descent, in actual fact, she did not enjoy any resources at all, not to mention anyone nurturing her. If he knew the truth behind this, his tears would absolutely flow. While Huang Zixiao was in deep thoughts, the light pillar which was energized by Huang Yueli continued climbing upwards. Besides that, after stepping over the boundary which marked out the Earth grade, she seemed to break through a bottleneck as the light pillar's speed actually didn't decrease, and had been stably rising upwards. even though it wasn't as fast as initial stage, but it was extremely stable. Huang Zixiao's jaw tightened as he kept his eye on the light pillar's upwards trend, as he began to feel unwell. Huang Yueli's performance had exceeded his imagination, because if the light pillar continued to ascend higher. Heavens, have I been shut in the inheritance tower for too long, which is why I'm hallucinating? How could anyone possibly reach heaven grade? Among the direct descendants in the clan, only one heaven-grade geniuses appeared every 3,000 years. This absolutely is a misperception. Even if she could get closer to heaven grade, but she couldn't possibly reach heaven grade. Because when the light pillar reached the highest 1/10 part, to hope to ascend just 1 inch was as difficult as reaching for the skies. So no matter how close she gets, she will not be able to reach it. But she actually had reached such a forefront position among the Earth-grade geniuses. This innate talent is simply incomparable. Even though the profound chi density in soaring heaven's continent is so low now, she has a 90% chance of being able to ascend to God realm, but she will need to spend hundreds of years to do so. Even if she returns to the clan in God realm in future, she would be highly valued and nurtured by the clan. Wait. What's that? You can also listen on. He saw the light pillar had slowly reached the top of the tower, leaving only just 1/10 of a distance from the peak. But the light pillar had not stopped ascending. Rather, it steadily broke through this checkpoint and continued climbing. Could it be impossible? This probably is already her limit. At this point of time, Huang Yueli, who was standing in the center of the light pillar, was indeed reaching her limit. When she entered this innate testing mechanism, she discovered that this mechanism, which was left behind from the ancient times, had indeed been as overbearing as the sacred Phoenix clan. It wasn't like what Huang Zixiao mentioned earlier, to let her inject her profound energy of her own accord. On the contrary, the minute she stepped in, the light pillar began to actively absorb the profound energy within her. After entering not too long ago, her profound energy was almost being sucked dry. This was why when she just reached Earth grade, the profound energy in her hadn't much left and the light pillar seemed to have halted in ascending. Actually, to be able to reach a standard near the Earth grade genius, to her as a practitioner who grew up in the lower realm, was already an universally shocking innate talent. In her own continent, she was already considered to be a top-rated peerless expert. But at this moment, she heard Huang Zixiao's ramblings to himself. Side branches clansmen, who could become Earth-grade geniuses, and sometimes there might not even be one after several thousand years. This young lass, naturally couldn't be one. What Huang Yueli hated the most was to be despised by others, not to mention that others saying that she could not do something. Why was it not possible? She just had to do it to show him that she could do it. Furthermore, the result of the innate talent assessment was not just about figures, it also decided the difficulty and rewards which she would gain after the training, and she must give a shot on this. Thinking of this, Huang Yueli clenched her teeth hard as she persisted and continued to throw in whatever profound energy that remained within her body. 9 Phoenix Transformations was a cultivation method which specialized in recovery, which enabled her to regain her profound energy much faster than other people in the middle of a battle. She tried her best to extract her own capacity, hoping to regain more profound energy to inject into the light pillar. As expected, although the speed of the light pillar's ascension had grown extremely slow, but it was still climbing upwards. But her effort and perseverance were still limited, and just as she was a line away from the Earth grade standard, Huang Yueli's profound energy was completely sucked dry, which meant that she really had reached her limit. Huang Yueli's face was pale as she bit her lip, with no choice but to accept that this indeed was her innate talent. Just as she was waiting to be transmitted out, suddenly, the Sky Phoenix ring which had melded into her started to vibrate. Immediately following that, the Sky Phoenix ring suddenly emitted a glow, as her entire dantian was enveloped in it, making her feel as though she was soaked in the medicinal bath while she was advancing. her entire body felt as though she was being torched by flames, so hot that she always cried out loudly. These glowing energies started to spread apart, dissipating into each and every meridian of hers. Huang Yueli could feel that this energy was not profound energy, but a kind of much more strong, and more dangerous energy, but she totally didn't know how to use it. Luckily at this moment, she was at the center of the light pillar, and she was required to actively use these energy. The light pillar automatically absorbed these energy. Relatively, the light pillar's length swiftly extended by a notch, as it steadily surpassed the Earth grade's checkpoint. You can also listen on. The energy in the Sky Phoenix ring was as though a steady flow. No matter how much the light pillar absorbed it, it still steadily unleashed the power outwards. Because of that, the light pillar also rose upwards and it didn't met with any further obstruction. It was all the way until the distance was 1/10 away from the peak when Huang Yueli felt the energy in her meridians gradually turning lesser. By the time it had reached a distance of 1% away from the peak, the energy in her was almost depleted. What should she do? It's just that little bit left again. Huang Zixiao was already in so much shock that he was totally unable to sit still. Heaven grade. This was heaven grade. This young lass was actually so near to heaven grade. What concept was that? Heaven grade genius was a rare existence in the entire god realm. Towards the super-leveled Sacred Phoenix race clan, it was already a high frequency if they were able to come out with one in every 10,000 years. As for those slightly smaller influences in god realm, in the hundreds of thousands of history, if they were able to get just one, their ancestors' graves would fume green smoke. If Huang Yueli could reach it, then. But don't think that it was just 1% away. The later it was, the more difficult it became. At this moment in time, in order for the light pillar to step over that last natural moat, and reach the most excelled standard which everyone looked up to, it wasn't just based on their inborn physique, potential, comprehension but purely determination. It was all based on a heart filled with determination, only thinking of moving forwards and not giving up. If there wasn't any slightly bigotry determination, no matter how good the inborn qualifications were, then one would not have any possibility of breaking through. So, there were numerous superior geniuses who had great inborn talents, but they were unable to be recognized as heaven grade, so after they had confirmed that all their potential had been unleashed, they chose to give up. Whereas for Huang Yueli, would she give up? Huang Yueli didn't give up, and she didn't want to give up. It was just this little bit left and she had gone through so much to come to this step, so how could she possibly give up? She knew that she needed more strength and needed to grow up more. She wanted to stand side by side with Mu Qingying and she wanted to exact revenge towards those who had caused her death in her previous life. All these required her to become strong. Furthermore, she must turn stronger in the shortest amount of time. She must persevere in taking this last step. But after the energy in the Sky Phoenix ring was depleted, the light pillar could not extract any more energy from her body, hence it started to draw her blood essence. Blood essence was a person's underlying foundation, and once it had been drawn out, their lifespan would be swiftly weakened and even a huge possibility which would lead to their deaths directly. Huang Yueli only felt that there were two different energies in and outside her body, which kept tugging and pulling, as though it was about to split her up into two halves. But even under such pain and pressure, she still forced herself to remain calm. Earlier, although there was Sky Phoenix ring to supply energy to the light pillar, but she had not given up on using the 9 Phoenix transformations to regenerate her own profound energy. Even though she knew that this little bit of profound energy was definitely not a lot, but she absolutely would not give up any sliver of hope. The cultivation method had been operated till now and she finally accumulated some profound energy. She tried her best to persist on and injected these profound energy into her meridians. The light pillar quickly drew away that little bit of profound energy which she managed to squeeze out. Immediately following that, the light pillar began to move upwards again. Its snail pace was so slow that one could not see any changes at all. But no matter how slow it was still continuing to ascend. Finally, gradually moving closer towards the peak. 1 of 100th. 1 of 1,000th. 1 of 10,000th. You can also listen on. By now, Huang Zixiao had completely forgot to breathe as his eyes were totally affixed on the light pillar, not even daring to blink just so that he was afraid that he might miss a single bit of change on it. He knew that he was witnessing a miraculous birth right now. The birth of a heaven-grade genius. After a difficult time of climbing, it finally reached the peak of the inheritance tower. Just at this instant, the entire light pillar suddenly emitted a super glaring ray, which was much more brighter by several times than before, and instantly, the entire inheritance tower was enveloped in this strong light. Although Huang Zixiao was only a spirit body, but he was still unable to open his eyes fully from such a blaring ray. It was only after the glow gradually subsided when Huang Yueli's figure finally appeared in the center of the high tower. She laid on one side, totally immovable, but the expression on her face wasn't in pain, but rather it was exceptionally peaceful. The light pillar had already shattered into pieces by now as it enveloped her entire body. The shattered pieces, one after another, dropped down onto her body as it began to be absorbed into her. Female devil, what's happened to you? Finished, will you die or not? If you die, who will cook chicken drumsticks for me to eat? As Huang Zixiao was afraid that little Phoenix would disrupt the entire process, he had kept it sealed within a boundary, so no matter how he bounced or hopped, he was not allowed to leave it. Now that everything had ended, he finally waved his hand to remove the boundary. When little Wang Kai was released, it immediately pounced onto Huang Yueli, bawling loudly. Huang Zixiao was still soaked in the shock from the birth of a heaven-grade genius, but on seeing this, his forehead creased as he suddenly felt that an act was put on. What on earth was happening? This young lass actually fed a phoenix chicken drumsticks. And from what it said, she seemed to have fed him a lot. No wonder this phoenix was so fat, and it had dysplasia. Sigh, a young lass was after all a young lass. She was still so young and had no knowledge, so even if she was heaven-grade, but she still didn't know how to rear a spiritual beast. Later he must educate her properly. Not knowing how much time had passed, Huang Yueli finally awoke from her concussion. Her memory started to return to her as she hurriedly sat up. She took a deep breath to sense the profound energy within her body and shockingly discovered that she actually advanced successfully. She was now a 4th stage realm practitioner. Furthermore, during the last moment in the light pillar, she had obviously felt her entire blood and cheese energy being sucked dry, and was worried that her life would be shortened, but now, her blood essence was flourishing. Not only did she not show any signs of aging, on the contrary, she even felt that she had more vitality than before. Just as she was in a daze, she heard footsteps closing in. Congratulations, you're the 3rd heaven-grade genius to be assessed by this inheritance tower. Huang Yueli went into a short blank and instantly gave a mixed expression which showed shock and joy. I succeeded. Earlier I was just lacking a little to break through to heave grade, but after I tried my best, I fainted directly, so I thought I had failed. No, you've succeeded. At the same time, so successful and perfectly completed the 1st stage of refinement. Huang Zixiao smiled as he said that. Earlier when Huang Yueli just stepped in, his attitude was still filled with 90% of arrogance. After all, he was the clan's minister who had guarded the inheritance tower for several thousands of years, whereas Huang Yueli was merely a nobody among the younger generation. He had seen a lot of such people, so naturally he wouldn't give a hoot about them. But now, the situation was totally different. Huang Yueli actually became a heaven-grade genius. Perhaps even she herself didn't knew what that meant, but Huang Zixiao knew clearly what it meant. You can also listen on. There was no need to think. If one day Huang Yueli was able to enter the god realm, she would definitely become someone whom the clan would spend all their efforts into nurturing this peerless genius. For this kind of character, to tell the truth, he absolutely must get on good terms with her. Hence, Huang Zixiao's attitude took a 360-degree turn and immediately treated her in an amiable manner. Huang Yueli naturally could tell that his tone was different from before, but she didn't think much of it. Because in this world whereby the strong were treated with respect, one's potential was the entrance pass to everywhere, so the other party's reaction was as normal as it could it. After Huang Yueli indulged in her happiness for a moment, she said, "That's right, Senior, earlier you seemed to have mentioned that I've passed the first stage of refinement. When did that happen? Could it be that it was when I was in a concussion and it had unfathomably passed by?" Huang Zixiao laughed, "Of course not. The process of refinement was the innate talent assessment itself. This wasn't just an assessment on your potential, but also towards your determination. Earlier while you were being accessed, the light pillar had halted twice in its ascension, so had you met with a bottleneck? If you had given up halfway or admitted that it was due to the fact that you couldn't do anything else, would you still be able to obtain the evaluation of heaven grade?" Huang Yueli's face immediately revealed an expression which showed she was in deep thoughts. "So it's like that," Huang Zixiao continued, "since it's refinement, then there would definitely be a reward. Earlier the profound energy and blood essence which was drawn away from you by the light pillar had been returned to your body doublefold, so don't tell me you couldn't feel that your condition is much better than it originally was? Furthermore, you've even advanced." Huang Yueli was just feeling strange earlier, but now she finally understood. So the inheritance tower actually has such a miraculous existence. To return the profound energy twice the amount into her meridians, no wonder she hadn't soaked in the medicinal bath but felt a breakthrough on the shackles of the flame spirit physique, completing an entire huge realm's breakthrough. But of course, for Sacred Phoenix race, such a powerful clan, to hold on to a large amount of resources, the practitioners within the clan definitely wasn't the same as her, affected by a flame spirit physique and being treated as trash by others, living muddle-headedly for the past 14 years. Their advancement should be rather easy. I'd not expected the inheritance tower's reward to be so miraculous, she sighed with emotion. Huang Zixiao laughed, "This is merely the first stage's reward. Moreover, not everyone would be able to receive the profound energy back twofold. If the assessment had ended at ordinary grade, then the reward obtained would be very little. Furthermore, there are really very rare cases where anyone was able to advance directly like you, so you're really a heaven-grade genius. The profound energy within you, just how abundant is it?" Huang Yueli went into a blank for a moment before she continued, "Actually, my cultivation level isn't very high and my profound energy isn't considered as abundant, so I wonder when the light pillar ascended, just what standard did it relied on to measure it?" Huang Zixiao nodded. "Innate talent assessment assesses potential and innate talent, so I can only say your innate talent has surpassed others." Huang Yueli lowered her head as she smiled, not continuing on this topic any further. In actual fact, she knew clearly that she was able to reach heaven grade successfully, mainly it was because of that mysterious energy which suddenly exploded from Sky Phoenix Ring. That wasn't profound energy but another kind of special energy, but she didn't know what it was exactly. But she was very careful not to display it out, as her instinct told her that the Sky Phoenix Ring wasn't any ordinary god relic. Luckily, Huang Zixiao didn't notice that something was wrong with her. He continued, "Following this, are you going to continue with the second stage of refinement immediately? You can also listen on." Huang Yueli asked curiously, "Second stage of refinement? How many stages are there in total?" Huang Zixiao answered, "The refinement has a total of 3 stages. But as of now, you can only complete the first 2 stages of refinement. Why? Because only 9th stage realm practitioners can withstand the 3rd stage of refinement. Furthermore, the foremost condition which determine if you can enter it is if you are able to complete the 2nd stage of refinement perfectly. Let's not talk about how many 1,100 miles your cultivation is away from the 9th stage realm, just this 2nd stage of refinement, you might not be able to obtain the result which you want. Why is that so? Huang Yueli quipped curiously. Huang Zixiao explained, because you have obtained the Heaven Grade Genius evaluation, so you will need to take part in the Heaven Grade refinement. The difficulty of the Heaven Grade refinement is much higher by several notches as compared to the other 3 grades. Do you remember that I mentioned earlier that you're the 3rd in this inheritance tower to be accessed to be a Heaven Grade Genius practitioner? The 2 before you weren't able to pass through the 2nd stage of refinement perfectly. Ah. It's that difficult. Huang Yueli immediately became dumbstruck, as thought flashed past her mind. If she knew this earlier, she would have directly stopped at Earth grade. She made a huge loss this round. Huang Yueli totally didn't conceal the expression on her face, so that little expression was just too obvious. Huang Zixiao took a look at her and knew what she was thinking, so his face turned green immediately. Why? From your expression, you're regretting it. How can youngsters have no wish for success and only look at what they will gain from it? Huang Yueli laughed dryly, but she thought to herself, rubbish, if it wasn't for the refinement reward, I wouldn't have risked my life and fought hard to take part in the refinement. These days, it wasn't easy for anyone to survive, so if there are no gains, who would do it? Huang Zixiao stared at her as he continued, Heaven Grade Genius reward would of course be much better than Earth Grade Geniuses. If you can pass through this 2nd stage of refinement perfectly, the reward that you obtain would be the same as an Earth Grade Genius's 3rd stage reward. As for Earth Grade Genius passing the 3rd stage refinement, the probability is probably not even 1 in 10,000 people, and one must be in 9th stage realm in order to obtain this reward. If you think in this way, don't you think you've earned it big time? Huang Yueli's surprised and joyful eyes instantly grew big. Seems like I really earned big time. Huang Zixiao almost fainted. Among the sacred Phoenix race clansmen whom he had encountered, which one of them didn't have the demeanor of a large clan's disciple? Even if they thought about the various rewards and gains in their hearts and were all calculating deep within, no one would reflect this on the surface. How devalued was this? When had he ever met anything who acted like Huang Yueli, totally a money-grubber face? The most mysterious part was this expression surfacing on such a pure and elegant face, but it didn't make anyone have the slightest bit of dislike, instead it made her look even more lovable. Huang Zixiao was annoyed as he held it in for some time, thinking to lecture her, but on thinking that this non-reasonable young lass was actually a heaven-grade genius, so he gagged and forced his words back, changing his words. Then will you take part in the 2nd stage of the refinement, or will you like to cultivate for a while, to stabilize your cultivation? Huang Yueli thought for a moment and replied, I think I'd better take part in the refinement right now. Huang Zixiao didn't manage to tolerate it and shot his mouth off. You'd better think about this carefully. The difficulty of the 2nd stage of refinement is very high, and if you were to enter it, but not able to pass through it perfectly, there won't be a second chance. Now that you've finally broke through a large realm, isn't it better for you to cultivate a little while more so that you can put out your potential to your largest extent? You can also listen on. However, Huang Yueli insisted, better to do it now. How would she not understood what Huang Zixiao said? But in order to solidify her cultivation, it would take at least a month's time for it to be completely stabilized. She was still in a hurry to get to Celestial Light Sect and meet up with Li Moying, so she wasn't able to waste any more time. Since that's so, why now she should strike the iron while it's still hot, and using this timing where she had just advanced, since the profound energy in her was most abundant right now, perhaps she might be able to work it up to complete the refinement at one go. Huang Zixiao was silently coughing up blood in his heart. This heaven-grade young lass was really non-reasonable. The things she said and did were totally not following the proper pathway. How on earth did she become heaven-grade? He speechlessly flicked his sleeves. In the center of the high tower, four big doors appeared out of nowhere and the surroundings were filled with rising flame patterns. See the rightmost door with the word Heaven on it. Walk through that door and scale the stories in the Inheritance Tower. There are a total of 7 stories in the Inheritance Tower, and in each single story, you will meet different cultivation and number of opponents. You must defeat them all to enter the next story. If you're defeated, then you will be expelled out. The more stories you enter, the better the reward you will obtain. Have you heard me clearly? Huang Yueli nodded. I understand, then I'll go in right now. Wait a minute. Just as Huang Yueli was about to walk through the door, Huang Zixiao called out to her from behind. Don't blame me for not reminding you. The difficulty of this stage is related to your age and not comparable to your actual potential. To tell the truth, you're going to turn 15 but still at the early stage of 4th stage realm cultivation. As compared to our sacred phoenix race in ancient times, your cultivation is considered low. The enemies you encounter when you enter now will be much stronger than what you can imagine. If you really cannot handle it, don't force yourself, otherwise there is a possibility that you will sustain permanent injuries. Huang Yueli's footsteps halted as a glint of resolution flashed past her eyes. I understand, thank you, senior. Huang Zixiao's words were truly out of concern for her. Based on Huang Yueli's current cultivation, in the current soaring heavens continent with such diluted profound qi, naturally it was already not bad, but the Inheritance Tower's refinement was set up according to the conditions thousands of years ago. Moreover, she had passed the heaven-grade refinement. You could imagine the difficulty. In the past, it wasn't as though there weren't any geniuses in the clan who were injured in the Inheritance Tower. 10,000 years ago, every single time the Inheritance Tower opened up, there would be a few practitioners who tried to flaunt their superiority and got seriously injured in the 2nd stage, thereafter affecting their cultivation later on. Huang Zixiao was very worried that this rare heaven-grade genius would sustain injury because she had undermined her opponent. If she were to die here, then it would be a huge loss to the entire clan. He had expected that even after hearing his advice, not only did Huang Yueli not become more cautious, she even seemed to become more excited. This sigh, youngsters really don't know how high the sky is. You'll understand after you enter the place, and if you're expelled just after 3 to 4 stories, then you'd know what's called embarrassment. While Huang Zixiao was ridiculing her, Huang Yueli strode into the big door with the word Heaven. The flame flickered and she disappeared right in front of Huang Zixiao and Little Phoenix. The big door closed up behind Huang Yueli. Behind the door was the same layout as the Inheritance Tower's interior design, only difference was she could not see Huang Zixiao and Little Phoenix. Other than that, the first story's enemy had already appeared in front of her. She raised her head and took a look but was truly shocked as a stupefied expression was shown on her face. You can also listen on. Celestial Light Academy. Jiang Tuxin was standing right in front of Li Moying as he explained with fear and trepidation, as sweat kept dripping from his forehead. Young sect master, the matter has already been investigated clearly. He raised his head and stole a glance at Li Moying, and shuddered uncontrollably as he saw his icy cold look, but he could only force himself to continue speaking. The person who was secretly tailing Miss Bai, and attacking the others in the middle of the road, is highly possibly Celestial Light Sect's Vice Principal Ling Wenbin. Because there are only a total of 3 people who are of 7th stage realm in Celestial Light Sect. 2 of them had been on rotation duty at the scripture depository and had not left their positions, whereas Ling Wenbin had been certified to have gone missing since the day Miss Bai left Celestial Light Academy. Furthermore, according to the description of the situation by those few merchants from Jade Wind Merchant Guild, it fitted Ling Wenbin totally. Li Moying coldly replied, "Your so-called investigate clearly is just to tell me this conclusion. That old fool dares to lay his hands on my woman so naturally he deserves thousands of deaths. I will absolutely not let him off. But now, is the most important matter about whether it's him or not. The most important thing now is to find Lear. Which of you can tell me where Lear is right now?" Hearing Li Moying's harsh and severe questions, those present all lowered their heads in silence, not daring to look at his eyes. Ever since the day they found out that something had happened to Huang Yueli, they had been searching for her without any rest for the past 7 to 8 days under Li Moying's direction. It was merely a few thousand miles of journey from Celestial Light Academy to Celestial Light Sect, and they had already led hundreds of people, searching from head to toe, and they've already interrogated almost every single family in the nearby towns, but no one had seen anyone who looked like Huang Yueli or Ling Wenbin appearing at all. This kind of situation was just a little too strange. As the saying went, see the person alive and the corpse if dead. 2 living people just disappeared into thin air like that, wasn't that strange? And the merchants from Jade Wind Merchant Guild had confirmed that the location of the incident happened nearby, which had been surrounded by Li Moying's men, which even water could not leak out. They were just short of digging up the ground to look for them. But from the battle marks left on the ground, they could only tell that the both of them headed towards the east side, and the trail ended just after 10 over miles, without any sign of battle at all. If it wasn't for the fact that they were still rational, they would probably had suspected that these 2 had vanished from the face of the earth. After investigating for 7 to 8 days continuously, everyone present cut in a sorry state. Amongst them, the one who looked most disheveled was Li Moying himself. For the longest time ever, he had not shut his eyes for more than 2 hours, and the panda rings under his eyes were super black, but the cold and severe look beneath his eyes increased by the day. Anyone who exchanged glances with him could not help but tremble with fear. Li Moying had personally went to every single route to the towns which Huang Yueli could possibly appear in. BTU the result had always been disappointing. His Lear had disappeared just like that. Could she really have been killed by that old fool? Li Moying totally didn't dare to face that kind of conclusion. Moreover, he felt that it just wasn't possibly deep down in his heart. His Lear couldn't possibly have died easily like this. She is so resourceful and so witty, and with that strong innate talent and response, even if it was facing a 7th realm practitioner, she would definitely have a way. You can also listen on. No matter how much Li Moying tried to convince himself that Huang Yueli wasn't dead, but as the investigation went on day after day without any progress, he started to doubt himself. If Huang Yueli was still alive, on seeing so many people searching for her, and even seeing Li Moying and those familiar shadow guards appearing nearby, how could she not possibly show up? Li Moying had not expected that Huang Yueli actually entered an early historical remains. Besides that, as the inheritance tower's energy wasn't enough, so every 49 days then would it appear once in the wilderness, not to mention that the location of its appearance would always be slightly different. Those without the treasure map in their hands had a 99% possibility of not being able to find its position. Li Moying was getting very anxious, plus the fact that he had not rested for a long time, not even eating anything much. So his mind started to whirl as he fell towards the ground. Young sect master. Master. Shadow guards hurriedly crowded around him as they held him at, simultaneously advising him to rest. Master, we have not done well in not being able to locate 3rd Mississippi. Don't be anxious, rest properly for a day. I believe that 3rd Miss, with her intelligence and wit, even if she met with a perilous situation, she would be able to turn the bad things around. That's right, young sect master, you can't be overly anxious about such matters. You're the entire sect's hope, and if your body collapses, then, enough. Li Moying's hand held his groggy head. Lear is suffering in some place suffering and you want me to rest? How could I even have the heart to rest? All of you get out and search for her. Think clearly if there's anywhere that you've not searched and which clues had been missed out by us. If we're just one step short and that caused an unsalvageable consequences, all of you don't even think of having a good life ahead. Quickly go. The more he thought, the more anxious he got as he was unable to wait any further and continued to rush out to search for her. Looking at Li Moying departing back, all the shadow guards bore an anxious look on their faces. Jiang Tuxin was drenched in sweat as he worriedly looked towards Mo. Protector Mo, you think? What should we do about this? It's been so many days and we still aren't able to locate Miss Bai's whereabouts. To tell the truth, in my heart, I really think that. Stop your wild guesses. Mo hurriedly stopped him. If these words were to enter Master's ears, even 1,000 deaths for you isn't enough. Jiang Tuxin hurriedly shut his mouth and after some time, he gave a long sigh. What do you think about this matter? Mo replied, Principal Jiang, since Master has already given his instructions, the only way we have left now is to continue searching. Do you dare to defy Master's instructions? Moreover, you don't understand Third Miss well enough. She's not that kind of person who would easily fall into the hands of others. She's not that weak, so she must definitely be alive. In actual fact, Jiang Tuxin really wasn't sure why such a petite young girl like Huang Yueli, without any family background, had the full support and adoration of Li Moying and his shadow guards. To be able to captivate the heart of Li Moying, this kind of man, depended on luck, but to even be able to convince his subordinates, that absolutely wasn't something which common people could achieve. Even if it was Murong Fei, those shadow guards totally didn't catch their eyes. Mo hurriedly added, as compared to Third Miss's whereabouts, I'm more worried about another matter and I'm afraid by then, I'd need Principal Jiang's help on it. Jiang Tuxin shivered as he subconsciously felt that it wasn't a good thing. You can also listen on. Indeed, his instincts were spot on. The minute Mo opened his mouth to iterate it, it almost scared him to death. In another 7 days, will be the full moon's night. Jiang Tuxin's heart thumped hard. Mo hurriedly continued, as you've seen previously, whenever Master acted up, it is actually very terrifying. Moreover, recently there's the trend of his illness becoming more serious than before, as each time it acted up, it was more and more powerful. Only when Third Miss stayed by his side, would he be pacified. If something really happened to Third Miss, all of us are going to run into bad luck. The problem is already very serious now, and if we still aren't able to locate Third Miss within 7 days, what should we do when Master's illness acts up? Jiang Tuxin was tense to the max. This. Protector Mo, in the past when Miss Bai wasn't around, didn't you all have any way to handle this? Mo replied, there is a way. In the past, Divine Dr. Liu had specially refined some medicinal pill for Master and it could slightly control his illness, but as a prevention, we need at least 4 9th stage realm and above sect elders to stand guard at the same time for Master. If Master refuses to return to the sect and if his illness acts up halfway during the journey, things are going to turn out very badly. Then what should we do? Jiang Tuxin was totally at a loss. Mo Yi's lips revealed a calculated smile. That's why I said I need Principal Jiang to coordinate with me. Let's think of a way to trick Master back. At least we gotta wait till full moon's night is over and only let him out after his body has recuperated. You're not afraid that after young sect Master finds out about the truth, he will go mad? Do you still want your little life? Jiang Tuxin was drenched in a headful of sweat as he never expected Mo to have so much guts to this extent. Mo was actually pretty helpless. There's no other way. You think I'm willing to defy Master? But as compared to his life, I'm willing to accept my punishment after this deed is done. Don't worry, you just need to coordinate with me to tell a few lies. I won't confess anything about you after the deed is completed. But this, Jiang Tuxin had wanted to shirk, but he was held on by Moe's carrot and stick approach, so in the end he could only agree to it. Moe solved a huge problem, and on the surface, he was relieved, but within his heart, it had turned extremely heavy. He looked away at the eastern part of the sky and went into deep thoughts. This time, even if they were able to trick Master back to the sect, but surely they weren't able to do it every single month, right? Master couldn't possibly be tricked every single time too. Third Miss, where on earth have you gone to? If you still don't return, everyone's not going to be able to continue living. In the Inheritance Tower. Huang Yueli was facing the first story's opponent, and she felt that she was totally stupefied. Early after she heard Huang Zixiao's warning, she thought that the opponent that she was going to face was an extremely strong opponent, and even if it was just this first story, it would be a powerful practitioner who would be a threat to her. The result was, after she took a careful look, she discovered that the first story opponent was actually a second stage realm 5th level practitioner. Wasn't this a little too weak? She could send a normal second stage realm 5th level practitioner flying with just one move. But considering that this was the almighty ancient god clan's inheritance tower, Huang Yueli felt that she shouldn't take things too simply. This opponent might look weak, but there must be some secret behind it. Perhaps it was to confuse her, so she absolutely cannot undermine the opponent. As Huang Yueli just stood there without moving, the opponent on the opposite side couldn't hold on any longer as he proactively charges towards her. You can also listen on. Hearing the sword sound breaking in empty space ringing, Huang Yueli didn't dare to pretermission and immediately concentrated fully. Her right hand pointed upwards and a burst of flame appeared in her hand. She used around 30% of her profound energy, displaying her profound skill as she attacked towards the opponent. This move of her had a higher percentage of probe, as she mainly wanted to find out what was the secret about the Inheritance Tower's refinement opponent. Why did he look so weak? But she had never expected that the minute she waved that sea of fire towards the opponent's corner of the shirt, the opponent only dodged left and right but didn't manage to evade her attack as he was heavily struck on the chest. Huang Yueli subconsciously added another move, and this time, the opponent totally didn't manage to evade it and directly fainted from her strike. What's the situation? Huang Yueli blinked as she couldn't make head or tail out of this. When she faced this opponent, as compared to ordinary second stage realm 5th level, he indeed was much stronger, and adding on to the cultivation methods and profound skill, his potential had reached second stage realm's peak. But, surely this wasn't comparable with her, right? No matter what, she was a 4th stage realm practitioner. Giving her such an opponent, did that meant to give her a free win intentionally? Just at this moment, a voice counting down rang in the Inheritance Tower. Congratulations Huang Yueli, you've successfully passed the first story of the Inheritance Tower, using only 6 breaths. In the past 10,000 years among the practitioners who had passed, your rank is 1,500. Your reward is a 5th tier lower grade medicinal pill, a bottle of spirit restoration pill. Please continue to strive for the best. After 10 breaths later, you'll be transported to the second story. Please ready yourself for the next battle. 10, 9, 8, 7. Huang Yueli was shocked because she was ranked 1,500 in the past 10,000 years, and that was indeed an extremely forefront position. In the past, whenever the Inheritance Tower opened yearly, there would be 500 people who took part every time, and after accumulating the amount of people for several thousands of years, there should be a few 100,000 at least. Among so many people, what concept was it to be ranked 1,500? Furthermore, when she just entered, she actually hesitated for a very long period of time. If she had put in her full effort in attacking the opponent, to tell the truth, she might not even need 1 breath's time before she could counter the opponent to obtain victory. In that case, what rank would she be able to achieve? Huang Yueli felt that she was slightly not calm as she originally thought that the first story of the Inheritance Tower was so easy. But now from her ranking, it was easy to guess that the Inheritance Tower's refinement couldn't possibly be that easy. Otherwise the others would also need at most a few breaths to pass through this stage easily, so how could she possibly obtain such a high ranking? In this case, did that meant that her assessment was especially simple? But why was it like this? There's just no way to explain it. Could it be that because she's a heaven-grade genius? 4, 3, 2, 1. Begin. Huang Yueli had yet to make head or tail when she was transported to the middle of the second story. She hurriedly shook her head to drive away all the distracting thoughts in her mind. Stop speculating, perhaps it's all a coincidence only. What's more, perhaps they gave me an easy opponent first and later on, the difficulty would increase largely, so things are definitely not so easy, so I absolutely cannot undermine the opponent. She warned herself once again as she turned around to face her new opponent. This time, her opponent was actually a second stage 8th level little girl. This lass looked as though she wasn't even 10 years old. Why did she become her opponent? Huang Yueli was standing in the blistering wind in a complete daze. You can also listen on. Even though she had thousands of question marks in her mind, but Huang Yueli already knew this time that the time taken to pass through the round contributed to the ranking. So she didn't hesitate any further as she drew out a long sword from the Sky Phoenix ring and combining it with her fire-attributed profound skill, she directed it towards little Lolita. This little Lolita's potential was indeed much stronger than the previous opponent. Enough though she was only in second stage realm 8th level, but her actual potential could easily challenge a third stage realm 3rd level practitioner. One must know that it was extremely difficult to battle across the realm level, especially if it's crossing over a large realm, to challenge a powerful opponent. Only top-rated geniuses could do that. This little Lolita was really worthy of being the Sacred Phoenix race's appointed refinement opponent. If the person who took part in the refinement had the same cultivation as her, then it would be a difficult task to deal with her. Thinking of this, a thought fleeted past Huang Yueli's mind, but she wasn't able to grasp it. She thought carefully for a while, and that little Lolita had already fallen beneath her feet. At the same time, the countdown in the Inheritance Tower was activated once again. Congratulations Huang Yueli, you've successfully passed the second story of the Inheritance Tower, using 40 breaths. In the past 10,000 years among the practitioners who had passed the second story, your rank is 300. Your reward is a 5th-tier upper-grade profound armament, hexapole sword. This time, her ranking had indeed risen. Rank 300, it sounded very incredible, so much that even Huang Yueli was shocked beyond words. She didn't felt that she was that strong. She had not even used 10% of her actual potential. 4, 3, 2, 1. Start. The shining glow sparked and Huang Yueli was transported to the third story. In the Inheritance Tower. Hiang Zixiao laid a rug on the ground and sat cross-legged. A flask of wind appeared out of nowhere in his hand as he poured it into a cup and slowly enjoyed it. Little Phoenix sat obediently by his side. Actually, this fellow usually wasn't that obedient, especially when he was with a stranger, all the more he wouldn't behave properly. Only, to be beside this kind of practitioner who was also a spiritual body, and his potential was really much more powerful than him. Just casually pointing would render him immovable, so that gave little Phoenix no means of resisting. Alright, after your master had entered the refinement, she will need at least 20 over days before she can come out, so let's just wait here slowly. It needs to be that long. What kind of rubbish refinement is that? How could it possibly take such a long time? Little Phoenix grumbled. Huang Zixiao knocked on its head and said, "What do you know? What I'm saying is under the circumstances that everything is smooth sailing, then she will take 20 over days. I haven't even touched on the situation whereby it's not smooth sailing yet. The difficulty of the refinement in the Inheritance Tower is very high. Just the first story opponent is similar to the Refiner's Cultivation. After that, in every story the refinement opponent would obviously be on a higher stage than the previous. When it's nearing the end, there is a possibility that she will have to face a practitioner who is higher than her by 2 large realms, and we're talking about those super top experts whose potential are on the forefront among people in their same level. After every story, it will be a bitter battle, so spending over 20 over days isn't anything rare at all. There are some who had spent 100 over days and still not able to come out. Little Phoenix asked curiously, why must they stay inside for 100 over days? If they were seriously injured during the battle, won't they be transported out directly? Huang Zixiao replied, that's under the situation whereby they're so seriously injured that they cannot continue with their battle. If it was merely losing a battle and the refiner could still defend themselves, then as long as they escaped out of the attack boundary of the opponent, then they would not be attacked any further. You can also listen on. During this time, the refiner can raise their own potential through the refinement, or when they have found the opponent's flaws, then they can continue to battle. You should also know that in the midst of a battle, profound skill and cultivation will be raised very quickly. Especially in front of an especially strong opponent's threat, plus the density of the profound chi in the Inheritance Tower is extremely high, so during the process of passing the refinement, there are many practitioners who advance or break through, and through their advancement, they are able to win the stronger opponent. This takes a long period of time, and some of them would choose to stay inside to cultivate for a long period of time. But the refinement time is limited, and at most, they cannot exceed half a year. If they are not able to pass within half a year, even if they're not seriously injured, they cannot continue staying inside. After Huang Zixiao finished with his explanation, he turned his head and looked at Little Phoenix. He had expected to see its expression filled with worship, but in the end, what he saw was a little bun face which looked as though it had seen a ghost. "What's the matter?" he asked with a frown. Little Phoenix stretched out its short and plump finger as it pointed behind his back. "You, quickly take a look. Why did that door display numbers after my master walked into it?" Huang Zixiao replied, "Numbers represent which story your master is now at. Such a short amount of time and there's already numbers showing, looks like she's already entered the second story. But this is also normal. First story refinement opponent normally are similar to the refiner. Your master is a heaven-grade genius, so she's definitely have no problem." "Heavens, what's going on?" Huang Zixiao was casually explaining in a breezy manner as he turned his head. Originally, his tone was extremely normal, but after he saw the heaven door displaying the number, he looked as though he had been struck by lightning as he stood dumbstruck. It took quite a while before his eyes popped out and shouted, "This! Am I seeing things? The number on this door, could it be 4? Little Phoenix was also bearing a dazed expression. "You didn't see it wrong, because I also saw 4. No, it's 5. Huang Zixiao felt that his breathing was about to stop as his heartbeat palpitated swiftly. He seemed to have witnessed another incredulous miraculous birth once again. But, how could this be possible? How did Huang Yueli manage to enter the fifth story so quickly? This was an even more shocking than her being a heaven-grade genius. Because the second story's refinement opponent was specially matched previously, so Huang Yueli's heaven-grade innate talent actually could not bring her any advantages, but it would increase the difficulty of her refinement. Her opponent would be much more powerful than the others. She should take a longer time than others to pass, wasn't it? However, the truth was shown right in front of their eyes. The door's number was an obvious 5. The Inheritance Tower could not possibly cheat anyone, and that already explained that Huang Yueli had indeed entered the 5th story of the Inheritance Tower. But after the 5th story refinement had started, the number on the door had not changed for a very long time. Little Phoenix stared at the door with a daze before turning his head to ask, "Uncle, didn't you say passing the refinement was very difficult? Just one story would require around 1 to 2 days. Why did my master pass so quickly? Have you remembered wrongly or something?" Huang Zixiao didn't know how to reply to him. Because such a situation like Huang Yueli's had long surpassed his imagination. It wasn't like he had not met any heaven-grade geniuses in the past, but none of them were able to do this so skillfully and easily in the heaven grades refinement. You can also listen on. This young lass, where on earth did this perverse lass pop out from? Little Phoenix asked again. Since my master can pass so quickly, she would probably be out before the sky turns dark, right? Huang Zixiao gave him a stare and replied, "How can that be possible? From 5th story onwards, the refinement opponent's cultivation level is higher by exactly 1 large realm. Moreover, heaven-grade geniuses' opponent are also heaven-grade standard. With the same kind of innate talent, with the opponent's cultivation surpassing by herself by a huge notch, how will she be able to obtain victory so easily? No matter how abnormal she is, she couldn't possibly come out so quickly. What's with that, looking down on others? My master is especially powerful and especially talented, perhaps she might be able to come out." "No," Huang Zixiao wanted to say, "not possible," but recalling that the few theories that he had set down earlier had once and again been thrown back, smacking his face by her astonishing performance, this time round, he didn't dare to assert so absolutely. "Although this possibility is there, but I feel that likely she's not able to. Let's wait till tonight and see how things go." He had chosen a slightly conservative way of saying. In actual fact, Huang Zixiao had not been wrong in the end. When dusk fell, the number on the door had changed from 5 to 6, but Huang Yueli had not came out. Even though he guessed correctly, but the shocking sensation in Huang Zixiao's heart had not become any less. Because Huang Yueli took around 8 hours to pass the 5th story, and if he didn't recall wrongly, the last practitioner who clocked the record was an Earth-grade genius, and the time he left behind was 22 hours. Huang Yueli had already surpassed him and became the record holder for the 5th story. Following that, there were 2 more stories. And the amount of time she spent was already faster than others by half. If this trend continues, if there were no accidents, not only would she be able to pass successfully, she would also be able to break the perfect passing time record directly. Where on heavens could you find such a ridiculous matter? At the present moment, Huang Yueli had already entered the 6th story. In the previous few stories, the first 4 stories' opponents were completely not a threat to her. The 5th story's opponent had created a little mayhem for her. The opponent's cultivation had just entered the 4th stage realm, but as he was a water-attributed practitioner, the clash in the attributes happened to curb Huang Yueli's. Moreover, the opponent had apparently trained God Realm's high-leveled cultivation methods and profound skills. The methods of attacks were extremely crafty, and she had never encountered such moves previously. So she wasn't able to react in time, hence spending a rather long duration tangling with the opponent, before finally defeating the opponent. Ever since she entered the 6th story, Huang Yueli became even more cautious. Because, this time, she truly felt a powerful presence which was enough to threaten her. This was her first time matching up against an opponent whose cultivation level was much higher than hers. 4th stage realm 3rd levels heaven-grade genius. In the Inheritance Tower. Little Phoenix was originally betting with Huang Zixiao delightfully, saying that his master would not need a day before she could pass the 7 stories refinement perfectly. In the end, reality was, after an entire day and night, the number on the door changed from 6 to 7. Little Phoenix lost the bet as its chubby bun face was filled with disappointment, as he kept mumbling. Female devil, aren't you a little weak? Usually when you take the feather duster to beat me, aren't you very powerful? You can also listen on. Why are you now not living up to expectations? You actually made this little master lose the bet. With this, are you even considered as a heaven-grade genius? Little Phoenix continued to nag, and Huang Zixiao was irritated by his incessant chattering, so he lifted it by the neck and threw him aside. Alright, stop nagging, your master is already very powerful. With her current speed, the first 6 stories passing speed, she is already much stronger than the second fastest person by several times. If she's called disappointing, then what should you, a dysplasia phoenix, be called? You, who did you say was dysplasia? Little Phoenix was infuriated. Huang Zixiao didn't say a word, but that rising almond-shaped eyes shot towards Little Phoenix's tummy, which jutted outwards. Little Phoenix quickly took a deep breath and sucked in his tummy, and at the same time stomping his feet. I am storing energy for the sake of growing up. At least I'm not like you, you're already so old, and for several thousands of years, there's no way you can continue developing, so are you jealous of me? Hee hee, Huang Zixiao smiled with a profound meaning as he didn't continue. Dare to be disrespectful to a senior like him. Hee hee, just wait to say goodbye to chicken drumsticks. Anyway, it was having chicken drumsticks which left to this little fellow being dysplasia. He taught Huang Yueli the proper way to rear a phoenix, not to give him a hard time, but to help him. Little Phoenix felt his sinister cold stare, and unknowing the reason, it subconsciously shuddered. Why, did it suddenly have an ominous feeling? Congratulations, Huang Yueli, you've successfully passed the 6th story of the Inheritance Tower, using a total of 24 hours. In the past 10,000 years, among the practitioners who had passed the 6th story, your rank is number 1. Your reward is... When Huang Yueli heard the countdown voice, she clutched her chest as her heart palpitated furiously. Earlier she took a long time to pass the 6th stage because the 6th stage opponent was out of her expectations. Not only was his cultivation stronger than hers, furthermore, in terms of speed, it was an exceptional talented practitioner. Huang Yueli couldn't catch up with him at all, and in the beginning she tried various methods, trying to get close to him, but all she suffered were losses, without any winning options. Moreover, the opponent was just too fast, so it was very difficult for her to even escape, and there were several times when she was almost struck by the opponent, cutting a sorry state. But after experiencing the first few hours of disorder, she managed to find out an inkling from the opponent's motion. The opponent's speed was indeed very swift, but it wasn't due to the disparity between their cultivations, but purely because the opponent's motion skills were exceptional. Furthermore, this set of profound skill wasn't too difficult. If she had a way to take a clear look, with time to figure it out, she might be able to learn it. Thinking of this, Huang Yueli intentionally provoked the opponent several times more, and while escaping, she observed the opponent displaying the profound skills method. It didn't take long before she mastered the initial steps of this set of motion work. Although she couldn't be matched against the opponent's innate speed and wasn't as experienced as the opponent when utilizing the profound skill, but at least she wouldn't be too far back and had ways to display her own methods, fighting it out with the opponent. After several hours of trial and conclusion, she finally defeated the opponent. In the end, she became the fastest person to pass the 6th story and obtained a reward. It was actually a set of heaven-grade profound skill agility dance steps cultivation scroll. It was until this moment that she found out that the set of cultivation method which she stole from the opponent was the agility dance steps. You can also listen on. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.